and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 13th August 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and this discussion is on many interesting articles from the Gazette. Now, our discussion is divided in two videos. The first video is on the featured news, which this time is on a very important topic, IPCC 6th assessment report. And here we will understand the details of this report and also something about IPCC. Right? This is the first video. The second video is on rest of the articles, where we dedicate this day in history to Fidel Castro. Important news update that are: one, an important report released by National Commission for Protection of Child Rights on minority institutions, minority education institutions. The second one is GSLV failure, some updates regarding that. And the third one is the tigers and elephant census to be conducted together. Why? Image of the day is on cave lion. The important terms and concepts that we discussed today are these four: Fembosa, Khudiram Bose, Kaziranga National Park, and the bio bubble in Kerala to aid tourism. Editorials of the day. The three editorials that we discussed today are: first, criminalization of politics; the second one is from efficiency of parliament; and the third, how Eupee can help transform the welfare schemes of the government. Case study of the day is from Namibia. So let's start the discussion. We have dedicated this day in history to Fidel Castro because it was on August 13th, 1926 that Fidel Castro was born. He was influenced by the communist ideology, and because of this he waged a guerrilla warfare against the dictator of Cuba. Later he became the prime minister and the president of Cuba for almost half a decade, and because it was under his influence that all the infrastructure institutions in Cuba got converted into the socialist institutions. The way the economy ran and the whole society was communist in nature. His ideologies also shaped the international relationship with other countries, for example, Soviet Union and against United States. Right? He passed away in 2016. New snapshot. The first snapshot is on an important survey in the field of education. National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights has conducted a survey in minority education institutions. So let us understand what this survey is about. Before that, 93rd Amendment Act in the Constitution, it said that in educational institutions, certain reservation has to be provided to the marginalized sections. So scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, socially and economically backward classes will be provided certain number of seats, certain percentage of seats in an educational institution. For example, in schools, the schools which are aided by the government or not, the private schools or the government schools. In private, aided and unaided schools, all these schools will have to have certain number of proportion of seats for these communities, for the marginalized communities. However, the exception to this was the minority schools. So the schools which are administered by, for example, the Christian missionaries, the madrasas, they were exempted from it. The Right to Education Act did not apply to these minority schools, right, in terms of having a percentage of seat for the marginalized community, right? So the survey is on this particular aspect of how minority schools are operating right now. So the first understanding of the survey says that there is a disproportionate number of non-minority students. The first and important highlight of this report is that there are disproportionate number of the non-minority students in these minority schools. On the other hand, what should be such that minority schools should aid the study of the minority students, right? But 74% of students studying in Christian missionary schools are non-minority. Similarly, all the organizations, Christian, Islam, etc., 62% of the students studying there are non-minority. So is the advantage given to them is the exception given to them under 93rd Amendment Act going to these minority students? No, probably it is going for profit making, right? So this is how the article also says that these organizations are trying to evade their responsibility, right? So this is one thing. The next thing the article says that there is non-uniformity in madrasa as well, right? How come? There are a lot of out-of-school children, right, in the Muslim community. Also, the syllabus is outdated. There is less provision for teacher training in these madrasas. And because the syllabus is outdated, the students feel a little inferior as they compare themselves, their education level to the world education level. So there are important way forward that have been mentioned. For example, one is mentioned is that it should be a part of the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan campaign. We have studied Samagra Shiksha, and Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan is a part of Samagra Shiksha. So you can mention this is one important way forward, right? Also, there should be reservation for the minority students in the minority schools. So these are two important updates regarding the survey. Snapshot 2 is on the GSLV failure that happened just recently, and we saw that in the newspapers. Now, the GSLV, this satellite launch vehicle, was to carry the observation satellite EOS-0 through into the orbit of Earth, right? So that it could carry out important activities, survey activities for study of India. So the idea was to disaster management study and mitigation. So this was the main idea this satellite was to serve. However, the satellite launch vehicle GSLV, which was carrying this payload means the satellite. So this satellite had different phases, right? So stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, these are different stages in which the ignition of the fuel happens, right? The first stage is a solid stage. The second stage is a liquid stage, and the third stage is cryogenic stage. So low temperature stage. This is the one where the engine failed to ignite. The liquid and hydrogen, liquid, oxygen, this failed to ignite. So first stage solid, second liquid, and the third cryogenic stage, it could not ignite, and therefore the whole rocket system and the satellite, it fell somewhere in the Indian Ocean, right? So this is the update article. Now, this is a very important update. Why? Because this is also leading to some conclusions about the future of our space missions. For example, NISAR. Now, these satellites have to be launched, right, by India and NASA jointly. And therefore, if India wants to launch a satellite, for example, NISAR, and to have human missions, these are the kind of satellites which will take the payload. But if these satellites are not able to do that right now, this is a consequence on the big ticket future missions also, right? Now, a quick background to GSLV, which got failed in this particular mission. Now, this GSLV is the 4th generation launch vehicle. We have had 3 generations previously. So there was SLV, satellite launch vehicle, and then we had augmented satellite launch vehicle, and then we had polar satellite launch vehicle as well, right? So this is the polar. PSLV is the one which is the workhorse for ISRO, and it establishes satellite very precisely, and ISRO has gained a certain degree of credibility in PSLV, right? This satellite launch vehicle generation. However, ISRO is trying to master the GSLV technology as well. Why? Because GSLV is the satellite which can take heavier payloads to a farther distance, right? Now, this is where we have to quickly look at the satellite orbits, right? So the satellite orbits are the low Earth orbits, the medium Earth orbits, and the GEO, right? Geosynchronous Earth orbits. So GEO are around 36,000 kilometers away from us, right? And these are the low Earth orbits, right? Starting from around 200 to 1,000 kilometers, and between that is medium Earth orbit, right? So the first generation SLV, ASLV, PSLV, and GSLV. India has mastered this technology. India also imported certain rockets from Russia. Previously, it tried to reverse engineer and try to create GSLVs of its own. It's cryogenic stage. That is the most important stage, while the aircraft needs certain amount of liquid fuel to be able to navigate in the outer space. And this is where the satellite has again failed us, right? So the main idea is to have better technology transfer from these countries like Russia, right? Now, GSLV advantage is that it can actually carry more payload, right? Payload which are more than 20 to 50 tons. Why do we need more payload? If we want human missions to space, if we want to travel to Moon and Mars and carry important gadgets and human and devices, we need to have heavier payload. If we want to go the distance, if we want to go far, we will need to have these important rockets. GSLV is also called as LMV-3, and it is the same one which failed the mission right now, which has to later be used for the manned mission, right? Manned space mission. Snapshot 3 is on the elephant sensors, which will be conducted along with tiger sensors for the first time in the year 2022. Now, around 30,000 elephants do exist in India at this time, around 3,000 tigers in India at this present time. This survey will be carried out together for both these animals along with leopard, right? So we will try to save duplication of efforts through this. Also, the survey methodology will include dung samples, camera trapping, statistical modeling. All that was done for tigers will also be done for elephants now. Now, elephants are migratory animals. They keep migrating from one place to another, and therefore it is important to not only have a head count of the animals, but also to understand their whole tracks, right? What they eat, where they stay, how do they migrate, and this will also help in minimizing the human-animal conflict, right? So this is very important part of it. Also, this survey has noted The survey previously has noted that elephants have started to migrate to newer areas. One good example that we ourselves studied in one of the terms was Lemru Forest Reserve, right? Where elephants have started to migrate from Jharkhand to Chhattisgarh, and therefore government had to create a reserve area for the same, right? So this will help in understanding the status of elephants, right? So they are presently endangered, but through this we will be able to conserve the elephants better, right? Asiatic elephants, India owns 60% of the population of the Asiatic elephants, right? These are the smaller elephants, smaller in size than the African elephants. Also, through this survey, we will be trying to uniformize the way the survey is carried out. Why? Because this survey will be carried out pan-India, and therefore all states will have the same parameters for the survey. Also, the area for elephants and tigers, they are overlapping. So why do we have to conduct the survey separately? We can conduct the survey for census all together at the same go, right? So this is an update from here. Also, there was a question in my mind: what is the difference between ivory and tusk? So the main difference is that tusk is the teeth from which ivory products are made. However, the ivory products are not just made from the teeth. Ivory products are also made from the horns. For example, the one-horned rhinoceros. Now, ivory products are utilized from them, but tusks are the teeth. For example, elephants have these teeth, walrus have these teeth. So this is the primary difference from what I gathered. Image of the day is the cave lion. This is a mummified cave lion. This is not mummified through the activities of putting chemicals on the body, but this is a very natural process. This is the process by which the ice has helped in the mummification of the animal. In fact, it was found that the teeth, skin, soft tissues, all of them have been preserved very well, just because the animal was under the burden of ice and therefore well preserved. Mummified cave lion. First term and concept in use is FEMBOSA. What is FEMBOSA? FEMBOSA is the Forum of the Election Management Bodies of South Asia. Now, this election body is having 8 members, all the South Asian nations, including India and Pakistan. What is in news? It is in news because India has transferred the chair from India to Bhutan, right? So all these 8 countries participate in cooperating and enhancing capabilities, enhancing capacities of each of these countries so that they could manage elections well. Why FEMBOSA is important? It is important because this is how we preserve democracy in South Asia, and democracy is equivalent to peace. If we do not have democracy, we will have dictatorship, and dictatorship might not be very peaceful for the South Asian region. FEMBOSA. Second term in use, Khudiram Bose. Why? Because it is his death anniversary. Now, Khudiram Bose, along with Praful Chaki, had planned an important assassination, the assassination of British Judge Kingsford. But sadly, they bombed a vehicle which was carrying 2 females and was not carrying Kingsford. And because of this, later, Praful Chaki, he shot himself dead before Britishers could capture him. However, Khudiram Bose was captured and later he was sentenced to death. You will be surprised to know that these youngsters were as small as 17 years of age. So Khudiram was 17 years and Praful Chaki was hardly 20 years. And they had such high vision for India to be able to free India against the British rule. And they participated very much fearlessly in the activities against the Britishers. For example, during the Bengal partition of 1905. Third term in news is the Kaziranga National Park. Why is it in news? It is in news because it has become the first national park in India to have been equipped with satellite phones to preserve these important animals, these one-horned rhinoceros, against poaching. The poaching of one-horned rhinoceros primarily happens because people need its horns. Its horns are in demand because of medicinal reasons and also because of ivory products that it creates, right? Kaziranga National Park is very important because it is one of the World Heritage Sites in India. It is also an important bird area and also a declared tiger reserve. Fourth term in news is Kerala's biobubble. What is this biobubble? Now, biobubble is an area which is created to be able to separate the people who are secure from the ones who may not be as secure against corona, right? So to increase tourism in Kerala, the idea has been to introduce a biobubble, an area, for example, a hotel. That hotel will have only those tourists who are secure, who have COVID vaccination or who are secure from COVID. It will also have employees working, only those who are secure from COVID issues, right? So this is how a sanitized, safe, secure environment will be delivered to the tourists in Kerala and tourism will get another boost. Editorials of the day. The first editorial for today is on criminalization of politics. The article presents a statistics on how there are increasing number of criminals in the political systems in India. Right. The article is in the context of Bihar elections, where the members who were fighting for elections, they did not declare their criminal background. Right. This is where the political parties try to give some reasons, as to why criminals are still being included in the political process. So they say, first, winnability. They say that people with such background can win the elections. So this is one. The second one is the maxim, which says that the person is innocent until proven guilty. So this is the reason. These are the two reasons why political parties still choose to have criminal background people in their parties contesting elections. Right. Now, there is a defense to this also. There is something called as vendetta politics. Because of certain issues, certain contradictions, certain animosity, there are cases lodged against even innocent persons. So this is vendetta politics. And this is where the article says that politicians are still treated differently as compared to the ordinary citizens. How? Because politicians are treated as innocent until proven guilty. Right? Agreed. But what about the citizens? So politicians can still fight elections, but a citizen who is under trial cannot vote. So there is a line of difference. What about getting into government job? A peon, a government servant, cannot be instituted in service if they have cases against them. So this is the line of difference between the politicians and the common citizen. This is what the article highlights. The article says that Election Commission has provided something very, very good inputs which can help curb this kind of issues. For example, the charges framed by the competent court, if that has been done, only then the case be treated as the one which has been criminalized, right? Otherwise, those are not criminal cases. Also, the cases must be lodged minimum 6 months in advance to the election. So these cases will be treated as legitimate while counting who is from criminal background and who is not. Because just before the elections, a lot of cases are lodged against rightful people as well. So this is the update of the article. The second editorial for today is on Parliament, which is abdicating, which is giving away its important role or oversight of the government. Right. So this article points at the fourth session which has been curtailed. The first two because of Corona crisis, the third one because of the election campaigns, and the fourth one right now because of farmer protests, Chinese incursion, Pegasus, spyware issues, in which the government is not talking and the opposition is holding back the parliament, right? It is curtailing the whole session of the parliament. Right now, the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have worked for just around 20 to 25% of their scheduled time. This is what the article says, right? So, how will the scrutiny over the important bills, how the important legislations will be talked about? What about deliberations? What about the committees which scrutinize these bills? That is not happening. Conversations on important events not happening because parliament has been disrupted again, right? So therefore, the article says that course correction must be required now. As we shift to a new parliament building, there must be course correction in the way parliament functions as well. This is the editorial. The third editorial is on Eupee, which can transform the government welfare program. This is what the editorial explains. The editorial says that it can be utilized in multiple programs like direct benefit transfer in case of the corporate social responsibility programs, the vaccination drives, fertilizer inputs, and PDS, public distribution system. Now, what is the quick background to this Eupee? Now, Eupee is nothing but transfer of finances through SMSs or QR code. So a person, if I am the recipient, I will be given an SMS. This SMS will contain the voucher, a particular code. For example, XYZ123. If this is the code, I give this code to the shopkeeper and then I will receive. If this is the voucher for 100 rupees, suppose, so this voucher will be activated while I present this to the shop, right? If I present this voucher to the fair price shop, I will be able to get discount of 100 rupees on the products I purchased from there. Similarly, fertilizer inputs, all the other inputs, all the direct benefit transfer, they can be given to people through these SMSs, right? They will not need to have a bank account for this. They will not need to have an app or a smartphone. All they will need is a phone which can authenticate the SMS, right? So only the authentic person will be able to receive this. Corporate social responsibilities. These are another means through which these benefits can be transferred. So corporates can also do this welfare activity with people, right? Without without impacting the efficiency of the system. This will be a highly efficient system because there will be no pilferage, no leakage. The amount will get directly transferred to the person. In fact, this will also assist universal basic income, right? No authorization is required, right? It is very simple. And this can also enable one nation, one ration card scheme. So this is a very good scheme. Also, in one of the editorials previously, I remember, we had clearly discussed how Eupee is also a step towards the central bank digital currency. So this is how I want you to start integrating the articles that you studied, right? So Eupee advantages, right? So basic understanding, one advantage is this, second advantage is the digital currency, right? Case study of the day. This is the case study of the black rhino. This black rhino is one of the important 5 types of rhino. This is one of the endangered species around the world. In fact, rhinos themselves are very much endangered. And this case study is from Namibia. What has happened in Namibia is that in lieu of protecting these animals, the whole community has grown. How has it started? First of all, an NGO started to pay local people to protect the wildlife. Then they started to give them the rights and benefits to use the wildlife products, right? So trying to create a habit of incentivizing the people living near the forest areas and communities, so that they can be a mutually reinforcing ecosystem and community ownership, right? And this is how the poaching activities against rhinos also stopped, because people started to see value in tourism. People started to see value in rhinos participating in the local ecosystem, right? So this is how this whole ecosystem regenerated, and this helped in increasing the black rhino population in this area. It is not being only used in Namibia, but nearby countries as well. So what do we learn from this? We learn that community participation is very important for preserving our ecosystem. And this is how in future, when you become a civil servant, you also will participate, right? By helping the other people also participate in the ecosystem, in the biodiversity of the nation. Thanks for watching.